change this. Well, good morning, everyone. It's so good to be here with each and every one of you. I must say, this morning has been, actually this week has been really interesting. You know, Robert was scheduled to speak this morning, and his talk was called Navigating Spiritual Potholes. Of course, just in time for, I don't know how many of you have driven down the street recently, but there is certainly much to navigate these days. But obviously, in light of events that occurred this week, both Robert and I felt there's no way we can talk about anything else. It just doesn't seem right to not address this with our community. And it's very much our practice to turn and face those things, isn't it? And so Robert and I had prepared this morning a kind of a panel, and then I got a phone call this morning from Fred, who is a member of our community, who picks up Robert and brings him here, and Robert was not feeling well this morning. So we'll hold Robert in our hearts as he works through, and he's got somebody there with him, so we'll work through that. And in the meantime, what I'd like to do with everyone today is to, number one, share with you a statement that I put out on the 15th, the day after the parade, that I sent to the community through our, whether it was through social media or through our email. And then what I'd like to do is share with you a number of questions and comments and things that both Robert and I have received through email, text messages, phone calls, one-to-one visits with the community. A number of these questions all tend to kind of fall into the same couple categories. And so I'd like to share some of those discussions with you today. So first, I'd like to share this statement that I put out earlier this week. I had prepared a writing to share with you all about love. Being February and Valentine's Day and spring-like weather, that would certainly be appropriate. However, before I could publish the newsletter, we experienced the devastating events during the Kansas City Super Bowl parade. I still want to talk about love, but in a different context. Our city is hurting. Lives have been shattered. Our practice asks us to go into the pain, to feel our broken heart, and to share with our community not only its joy of celebration, but also its sadness of loss. To focus on the thoughts and questions about our experience. Why is this happening? How could this happen? Who could do such a thing? Simply lure us into a numbness in which we do not have to feel the broken heart. I think these questions are quite natural at first, and as practitioners, we watch the mind's activity while taking time to allow ourselves to feel the anger, the sadness, the pain. What is left is to open our hearts to the families grieving and to open our eyes to the causes and conditions in place that make it so a young man cannot find help, cannot find words, cannot find peace, but can easily find a gun. Our community does not need more knowledge right now. It does not need more anger or frustration. It needs our love. Only when we stop the war inside can we begin to stop the wars outside. Once we have purified and released our own delusion, such as the delusion that says we must be angry to affect positive change in our world. Only when we release our own delusion can we truly take conscious action. Not from a place of fear, but from the only place that can actually help: love. And so from there, I went in and provided a Tonglen practice in the newsletter, which I know we did a Tonglen practice last Sunday for our heart practice, but I'd actually like to do it again today as a way of Sangha to be able to open and share our hearts with the community. So we'll do that after the message itself today. So what I'd like to do now is share with you a number of the questions and emails, phone calls, and things that Robert and I both have received from the community, and share some of our discussions with these practitioners around these questions. So, for example, one of the first questions that I'd like to share with you is, how do I cope with or handle these feelings of either anger and rage over what occurred, or the feelings of helplessness? And we received both these questions separately, and so what I want to do is actually combine them because they are sisters. And so what I mean by that is this: we often feel this helplessness, this powerlessness, and they are sisters because anger or even rage is the action arm of fear. Anger is a secondary emotion. At first we feel the powerlessness or the helplessness, and nobody wants to feel that. Anger or rage is much more empowering. It's much stronger. It is that action arm of fear, and virtually anybody would rather feel that than to feel helpless. And at the same time, there is an amazing aspect of our practice at work here. Again, you've often heard me say that the universe is madly in love with us, and it wants us to wake up. The helplessness, if we have the courage to sit and be with it, to truly feel and plumb the depths of what does it feel like to feel helpless, to feel powerlessness. If you truly take the time to sit and the courage to sit with that feeling, here's what beautiful and amazing miracle occurs. When you can sit and be with that, you now know what it feels like for a young man who has, because of whatever reasons, nothing but a sense of hopelessness and powerlessness and helplessness. There is no family there to assist and help him, to teach him what emotions are. Oftentimes they are caught up in violence, drugs. A young man who cannot feel any sense of power at school, who is constantly made to feel somehow lacking, who does not have the wonderful computer labs that some of the suburban schools have. A young man who has no community programs afterward that he can find, and can only find gangs, drugs, violence. There are people on the streets who can absolutely make him feel connected and can help him feel the power of a gun. Oh, the power is intoxicating. The power of life and death, because he cannot feel power in any other aspect in his life, but can feel the power in his hand. The moment that we can sit with that helplessness, we now know what they are feeling, and we can also feel what that powerfulness of anger, rage, oh, that feels so powerful. And now you know, there too am I. I am the young man with a gun. He is me. It's Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh's poem, Call Me by My True Names. So this is the power of the practice. When we can sit and be with that hope, that helplessness, that powerlessness, and truly feel it, then what arises is understanding. And understanding is love's other name. And this is how we practice love in times of crisis. Another thing that we can do to work with these feelings of rage and helplessness, especially fear when it becomes overwhelming, is the practice of RAIN. R-A-I-N. And I actually need to call on my friend Chris because I made copies of the whole practice and meant to set them by the front door. So they're actually sitting in the copy machine and the music stand is in the robe room. You don't have to go right now, but maybe towards the end of the service, if you don't mind. I was trying to make quick adjustments this morning. But the practice of RAIN, R-A-I-N, and I'm not going to go too far into it because I have some other things that I want to share with you, but it is a this moment, present moment, immediate way of dealing with overwhelming emotions. If a young man or a young woman in our city knew about these practices, that could save a life, couldn't it? If they knew how to deal with those overwhelming emotions, instead of reaching for something to make me feel powerful, they could reach for what is actually powerful. See, this is the difference between power and force. They are turning to force, thinking that it is power because they feel that power, but it's not true power. True power is cutting through and seeing the delusions, the beliefs that we are caught up in, being caught up in emotions and following those around every corner that they drag us around. So that's the difference between power and force. And so RAIN actually helps us bring a sense of empowerment because now I know how to deal with emotions that are overwhelming. The R stands for recognize what emotion has arisen in this moment. That is the truth of this moment. That is the second meaning of the word or the term Dharma. Dharma means truth. Part of that is the truth of the teachings, what we're talking about right now. The other part of that is the truth of this moment, what has arisen, and to not deny that, not to run from that. The A stands for allow it to be here. This is here. The rage and the anger you feel is actually a gift because it teaches us and shows us where our boundaries are. It teaches us and shows us what is important to us. For some, it might be environmental things. For others, it could be animal welfare. For others, it could be homelessness or young people. For all of us, we have a different line, but anger teaches us where that line is, and that is the gift in it. The I stands for investigate, to drop into the body and investigate what this moment feels like. What does this emotion feel like? Where's its epicenter? What's its size, its shape, its color? Does it pulse? Does it vibrate? Is it solid? Is it soft? I easily can spend 10, 15, 20 minutes exploring and investigating what it feels like. The feeling, the emotion is real. The thoughts about it are not. They're delusional and very alluring. Boy, I would much rather spend time with these thoughts because the feeling hurts. I don't want to go there. But that's the courage of what we do. That is the deeper and truer meaning of what a spiritual warrior is. Not someone who deals with force, someone who deals with true power. And then the in rain stands for nurture, to bring love and acceptance to this feeling, to nurture it, be with it, and stay with it until it passes. To understand ways that we can utilize our imagination to partner with the body to purify these feelings and emotions. Give them their life. So that's what we'll have at the back of the hall for you. Thank you, Chris. And a handout is that technique or that practice of rain. So I want to share some more questions and things that we have received. How do I avoid creating a story around what has happened? And so this event, I don't think that it's actually possible to not create stories, okay? That's what minds do. In the same way that in your meditation, you cannot stop the thoughts. Well, what's a story but just a collection of thoughts? And so in the same way that you cannot stop the thoughts, I don't really think we have the ability to stop the stories, but we can recognize them. We can see the stories for what they are, stories. We can recognize them and see them. And the reason that we are able to feel and sense these things are also the reasons why we are able to recognize the feeling nature of the stories. So as our practice, we often, Robert and I and Dave and Liz and Nicole and all the people that have ever spoken here oftentimes ask us to return and feel the heart, feel into it. One reason that we do that we ask you to feel and work, sense in your heart is, of course, to get you out of your head so that you don't get caught up in the stories. But another reason that we ask you to feel your heart is so that you can begin to recognize and feel the difference between your heart and the feeling, sensing of the stories and the beliefs. They have a different energy to them. I want to share a little passage for you from Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh on the art of suffering. The first function of mindfulness is to simply cultivate awareness, to bring awareness of when we are suffering and when we are simply in pain, of when we are caught up in our stories and coming back to what is true, and that is the feeling in our bodies. The second function of mindfulness is to embrace and calm the emotion. You see, mindfulness is a kind of an energy. Your anger is another kind of energy. The energy of mindfulness recognizes the anger and embraces it, and embraces that anger like a mother, a loving mother holding her baby, gently, caring, and kind. And you get a relief after a few minutes of this practice. And that is the art of suffering. How to recognize the pain in you, how to calm down the pain in you. We have to train ourselves to do this. And then we can experience a kind of relief, a kind of spaciousness that holds all of this. And with other exercises such as rain, mindful breathing, mindful walking, we can completely transform the pain that afflicts us. And we transform it into compassion, to caring, to understanding, which is what our community needs so desperately right now. Not more anger, not more fear, not more frustration. It's like Jack Kornfield says, when you walk into a refugee camp, what is it they need from you? Surely it's not fear, anger, and frustration. There's plenty of that to go around. And so it is here with our community. And so one more of these that I'd like to share with you that I've gotten a lot of questions on and a lot of, one more thing regarding how to know if I'm caught up in the stories. And that is they will have a past and a future aspect to them. If you can bring awareness to the content of the stories, you will notice that they have a past and a future aspect. That's how you know in that moment that you are caught up in delusion. Come back home to the present moment. Come back home to the here and the now, feeling and sensing in the body. And so one more thing that I want to share with you is this idea, this concept of this globalizing. How many conversations that I have shared with people where it went from the event and how they are feeling to what happened at the parade here in Kansas City to instantly going to, well, it's just all going to hell in a handbasket. I mean, everybody's got a gun. There's been more mass shootings than days in 2024. You know, Ukraine, Gaza, they just go global instantly. This is, again, is a technique of the egoic mind state. Because the present moment is right here, right now. It is incredibly intimate. And it can be very painful. So if I can just globalize, I don't have to feel that anymore. I just take it globally. So it is an escape mechanism, and it's natural, and it happens to all of us, and it can happen quickly. But just recognize it for what it is. It is the egoic mind trying to take care of you. Because this whole thing hurts like hell. And so our practice then is to go into this pain. Because as I stated earlier, going into the pain, if we have the courage to stay with it long enough, then we are able to shift our consciousness from being connected to the external and to the outer, to going to the internal landscape, purifying the pain, purifying the rage, purifying the helplessness. And in those moments, we are one and we are connected with those people who do not know how to get out of it, except through extreme means. And when we connect on that level, we begin to radiate that connection and we begin to share that. And the light that we are constantly looking for out there in the world, crazily enough, we become that light. We are able to transmute the fear into compassion and understanding. And we eliminate the blame, the judgment, the villains, the victims, all of it. Now again, please don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that we don't take action. In fact, what I'm saying is that the action that we take from this point on can be fierce, but it does not come from a place of hatred. It does not come from a place of more fear. There's not an us and them. We're not blaming ethnicities. We're not blaming young people. We're not blaming the education system. We're not blaming the people that screwed up the education system. There's not an us and them. There is only compassion for all the players struggling down here on this rock, working with everything that we have to work with. And so this practice comes, as is often said, until there is a shift in consciousness, everything that is occurring will continue to occur. How do we shift the consciousness? We are doing it right now. As we take courage to go in and feel and experience these things that happen. And I also, at the same time, can still experience the joy that our city feels. Somebody came up to me this week and it's like, all that erased in just a minute. And I'm like, no, it didn't erase everything. All of that is still here. There is still the joy that our city, the coming together that our city felt. But now we also feel the sadness of loss. And at the same time that we can share our joy with our friends, we can take flowers to the site. We can send letters to the school district. We can take time to offer our talents and our time and our treasures to programs that help young people in our city find different ways of coping with the things that happen to them. And I don't know if you noticed, but because the front of Union Station became a crime scene, they were unable to tear down and put everything away. And so I think it was Rochelle was telling me that it was the police officers and the paramedics that arranged all the chairs, as you can see right there in this KC Strong, which I thought was really a beautiful sentiment. And so I want to close by sharing this little poem by William Stafford with you. There is a thread that we follow. It goes among all the things that change, but it doesn't change. People wonder about what you are pursuing. You have to explain about the thread, but it is hard for others to see. While you hold it, you cannot get lost. Tragedies happen, people get hurt, people die, we suffer, there is sickness, there is old age, there is death. Nothing you do can stop time's unfolding. And we never let go of the thread. Thank you.